After starting 4-1 on the season, the Steelers are now 4-3 after losing two tough games against the Cincinnati Bengals and against the Green Bay Packers tonight. And when you look at the rest of the schedule, it is going to be tough for the Steelers to still have a lead in the AFC North division. Listen to this schedule over the next couple of weeks. They will face the Indianapolis Colts at home. Right now, statistically, they are the best team in the NFL. They have a top running game led by Jonathan Taylor and a top passing attack led by Daniel Jones. And their defense can give you a lot of problems in terms of stopping the run. A bad matchup for the Steelers. Then they'll face the Los Angeles Chargers on the road. They'll face the Cincinnati Bengals at home with Joe Flacco yet again. They'll face Chicago Bears on the road, which is a very tough matchup for the Steelers in terms of personnel with their defense going against their offense. Then they will face the Buffalo Bills at home and the Baltimore Ravens on the road. I look at the Steelers as the same as last season. It's a good chance that the Baltimore Ravens will find a way to take the lead in this division, and they'll be hosting yet another playoff game. This is a defense that's the highest paid defense in the NFL by a mile. You have Jalen Ramsey, Joy Porter Jr., Darius Slay, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson. You have allocated a lot of money in this defense, a lot of draft capital in this defense. It's a lot of resources in general pumped into this defense. Mike Tomlin is seen as a defensive mind. Before he got the job here many years ago with the Steelers, he was a former defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. And yet this defense, with all the talent that they have, they're ranked 28th in total defense, 32nd in passing defense. That's dead last in the NFL. And now after tonight's matchup against the Packers, they're 19th in rushing defense. Unacceptable on every single level. I haven't even touched on the offense here just yet. But this defense, in every single game that matters, they haven't stepped up. Even in the games that they have won this season, the defense doesn't look dominant. For TJ Watt to come out and say that he wanted to get a contract extension and for them to pay him that money, he has been a no-show in big-time moments this season. And I still have him being one of the best defensive players in the NFL. Cameron Hayward, who cried about wanting to go out there and getting paid. He said that he knows his value. I can't see it on the field. He has to perform up to standard this season. Patrick Queen has regressed this year. Was a solid linebacking option last season against the run. He couldn't tackle over the last couple weeks against the Bengals and tonight against the Green Bay Packers, and he has been terrible in pass coverage. Peyton Wilson, he is still solid, but he's better off when he can play off of someone else. Look at Landon Roberts last season. Landon Roberts could go back there, stop the run. It gave Peyton Wilson more room to operate with. And when Patrick Queen was playing at a high level last year, that's when we really got to see the best of Peyton Wilson. And right now he has been restricted off that play. I don't think that he can be a true number one threat inside your linebacking room. And it's not me saying that he's a bad player. The secondary here, Jalen Ramsey, he's too old to be stuck in man coverage for majority of the game. Joy Porter Jr. is a holding machine on the outside. Defensive pass interference majority of the time. Holding calls. That's who he is. Darius Slay is past his prime. This secondary on paper should be able to work if you mix in some zone coverage. But you mix in the same zone coverage that you were mixing in early on in your career if you are Coach Tomlin. And now quarterbacks like Joe Flacco, they know this defense. So their anticipation and their accuracy, they get the football out quick. They pick you apart. The same thing that Jordan Love did. Coach LaFleur made every single adjustment possible in the second half, while Coach Tomlin made none. And Coach Tomlin gets the majority of the blame. You have hired bad coordinator after bad coordinator. Matt Canada was a terrible offensive coordinator. Randy Fichtner, he was a terrible offensive coordinator. That is all on Coach Tomlin. And now Coach Austin. He's one of the worst defensive coordinators in the NFL. You have top-end defensive talent, and yet you have no idea what the hell you're doing on that side of the ball. And we can have the discussion who's calling defensive plays. Is it Coach Tomlin? Is it Coach Austin? I see Coach Austin with a play call sheet in his hand. And he is labeled as a defensive coordinator. Now, do I believe that Coach Tomlin comes out and he overrules him? Yes. They both deserve blame. With how this defense has played this season. 32 points allowed to the New York Jets, who has only had one win on the season as I record this video. They're one of the worst teams in football still. Justin Fields, who has struggled to throw the football at an elite level, was 16 of 22 against his defense for 218 passing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. The Seattle Seahawks had 117 rushing yards, 395 total yards on the day, and 394 total yards against the New York Jets allowed in Week 1. 31 points allowed to Seattle in Week 2. And we could talk about the situation with Caleb Johnson. The ball bounces off his helmet. It goes to the back of the red zone. That's on him. But your defense still had time to step up in the second half, and they didn't. Against the New England Patriots, a game that they should have lost if the Patriots did not shoot themselves in the foot. They had 369 total yards, 119 rushing yards in this matchup. Mind you, the Patriots have struggled to run the football consistently this season, but not against the Steelers. But you had 5 takeaways in that matchup. I'll give you some credit. You found some ways to adjust with your defense, even though your players made those plays. But let's give Coach Tomlin and Coach Austin the credit that they deserve, apparently. Even though TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward's going out there and they're actually stepping up in that matchup, which is rare this season. Against the Minnesota Vikings, you were up in this game, but Carson Wentz still had 2 passing touchdowns, 350 yards passing. You went against a beat-up offensive line. That's why you had 6 sacks in this matchup. But you still allowed 372 total yards of offense to the Minnesota Vikings, and you were almost letting the Vikings come back in and to win this matchup. The coaching with Coach Tomlin late in the game, just take your points. And he's not a first, he's not a second-year head coach. He has been here for a very long time. And against the Cincinnati Bengals, this is what did it for me. This is what made me go completely sour on the season for the Steelers for the rest of the year. 470 total yards of offense, 142 rushing yards, 37 points allowed to the Bengals, and Joe Flacco, who was basically left for dead with the Cleveland Browns, he comes over to the Bengals just 10 days with that roster, and he picks you apart. Jamar Chase looked like Randy Moss, 16 catches, 161 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown on 23 targets. You would think the Triple Crown leader, we would have a game plan for him, but you didn't. And when he wasn't open, which was rare in this matchup, here comes T. Higgins. We could talk about the 2 interceptions with Aaron Rodgers. 1 interception was not on Aaron in that matchup, and the other one was. But your defense still had time to come back and to make plays, but they didn't. And your offense had to play from behind. And tonight against the Green Bay Packers, this loss was so frustrating because once again, you had this game. You were up 16-7. And the Packers in the second half, they stormed. It was a disastrous third quarter for the Steelers. They made little to no adjustments. They ran the same plays. It was the same concepts from the first half. While the Packers come out, they're using motion. They're getting Jordan Love off the spot. They're running quick game. They're slicing and dicing this defense. 35 points allowed to the Green Bay Packers. And Jordan Love's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receivers. But for Mike Tomlin to be seen this quote-unquote elite coach, you would think that he would have a game plan for these players. So now break down these losses. And when I talk about these tough situations for the Steelers, I'm not trying to throw any shade towards Jordan Love and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're phenomenal players in this football league, and the same with Sam Darnold. It's just the expectation with this organization. Because like what Coach Tomlin said, the standard is a standard. The standard for him is going 9-8 and being one and done in the playoffs. But back to this Packers game here. 447 total yards allowed on the day to the Packers. And 3 passing touchdowns for Jordan Love, who was phenomenal. You could not knock him off the spot. Instead of rushing TJ Watt from the inside, he is mainly at base as an outside rusher. I'm seeing Micah Parsons being moved around. The same with Max Crosby and Myles Garrett. And they constantly keep him on the edge. You rush him from the inside, you run different plays, and it will free up rushers on the outside. And you can't say that the Steelers don't have a game plan doing this. They did this against the Patriots, and they went completely away from it. But you stay stuck in this same zone coverage, this same man coverage as cover one. And it seemed like when Deshaun Elliott went down with the knee injury, your entire defense went into the opposite direction. They can't bounce back from adversity. And that starts with the head coach. And yet you're going to have people come out and say, well, the Steelers, they'll never be great until they get their next franchise quarterback. Big Ben had great years with Coach Tomlin. And yet they fizzled out in the playoffs anyway. They had Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Martavius Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster. Very good offenses. Very good players. Big Ben was still slinging the football around the field as a top quarterback in this league. And yet they could not get a Super Bowl out of it with that core. And the man that I blame the most for that is Mike Tomlin, the head coach. Quote unquote, one of the best head coaches in the NFL. He underachieved with that roster. And now we expect for him to go out there and to win big time games with Aaron Rodgers at this stage of his career, when he couldn't do it with Big Ben and that core. It just seems like the man can do no wrong in certain people's eyes. But if you watch the Steelers every single year and you pay attention, they have always struggled against elite level teams. With Tom Brady and the Patriots, when they were being coached up by Bill Belichick, they had Mike Tomlin's number. Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes now with Andy Reid, they're a living nightmare with Coach Tomlin. He can't game plan for them. Every single year, they're slicing up this defense. And now we're seeing it on a weekly basis. They cannot beat teams that are elite in this league with the talent that they have. And that's a damn shame because of coaching. This is actually a solid roster full of players that can go and compete. But you will never know because this man is stuck in his ways. And I look at ownership with the Steelers. Mike Tomlin has overstayed his welcome. I'm not saying that he's a terrible head coach. He's just not the right head coach for this organization anymore. And it was time to move on a long time ago. But instead, you're stuck with him. And I'm not going to be surprised if they continue to stick with Mike Tomlin until he retires. It's the same cycle. And you have a bunch of fans come out and they'll say, well, what are you crying about? At least your team can go out there and they can be above 500. They can make the NFL playoffs. It's the same repeating cycle. If you're not improving and you're not getting better, what are you actually doing then in this league? I understand if he had losing seasons with Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. That was terrible quarterback play with Mason Rudolph. But this man still found a way to pull the rabbit out of the hat. And they still went to the playoffs and they got completely blew off the field by the Buffalo Bills. So they bring in Russell Wilson. They bring in Justin Fields. Solid quarterback play last year with Russell Wilson. They really did this man dirty. They put that losing streak on Russell Wilson like he was a man culprit for that. When you only had one consistent wide receiver in George Pickens. Then you go out there, you make a trade to bring in DK Metcalf. And you still have George Pickens on the roster. All the reports came out that George Pickens was a head case with Coach Tomlin. We can see that on the field. He's not a head case right now with the Dallas Cowboys. He's one of the better wide receivers in the NFL still. This man still found ways to give you production with terrible quarterback play. And you would think a 1-2 punch with George Pickens and DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers, that's the way to go. Instead, you trade him to the Dallas Cowboys. You don't trade him around the draft cycle. You do it a couple months after to bring in a mid-round pick. So now you're relying on Calvin Austin III to step up in big-time moments, who is a quality wide receiver. He's better off inside the slot. And you're hoping that Roman Wilson can make this magical jump, even though he missed his entire rookie season dealing with injuries. You only have one consistent threat on the perimeter in DK Metcalf. And now they're calling around the NFL and they're asking teams, what do you want for your top wide receiver? When you had George Pickens on the roster and you could have kept him. I understand he was a head case, but he's not a head case right now with the Dallas Cowboys. He's performing very well. And the Dallas Cowboys, statistically, they have a worse record right now than the Steelers. It seems like he has matured this offseason. And you're going to rely on 3 tight ends to go out there and basically help you out every single week. And Pat, who's a very good receiving tight end, Jonnu Smith, very good player, and Darnell Washington. I don't hate their tight end core, but I hate their offense because it's slow and it's sluggish. It is something out of the 1990s. In order to run the football, you need 3 tight ends on the field. And when teams go out there and they stop that jumbo package, you only have one wide receiver that can actually make defenses pay, and that's DK Metcalf. Roman Wilson has had a couple of good plays, but it's not consistent enough. And part of the other reason why you need 3 tight ends on the field, your offensive line is not good. Isaac has not been a good guard this season for the Steelers, and they signed him from the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of years ago. Broderick Jones has been a busted left tackle position. They trade up to select him in the first round out of Georgia. He's been a huge disappointment at that position. He's more so of a swing tackle. Mason McCormick and Zach Frazier are easily your best offensive linemen. And I'm still a huge fan of Troy Fautanu. He's only in year 2. I think that he will grow. And Broderick Jones is still a young player. But he's in year 3. This is when you expect for him to step up and to make those big time moments, and he hasn't done it. I don't think that Arthur Smith is this terrible offensive coordinator, but it's not working right now. Nothing is working at this point. So I look at it from this point. Don't go out there, don't make a trade to bring in a receiver. Let the season go the way that it is right now. Deal with the pieces that you have. Even if you bring in a wide receiver, it's still not going to fix the core problems that you have on the defensive end. The fact that your defense cannot stop a nosebleed. And you have a defensive head coach. This entire season is going to be in a tailspin for the rest of the year if they cannot fix their defense. You had a mini bye week to figure this out against the Packers, and yet you couldn't. It's the same song and dance every single year with Coach Tomlin. But yet they'll come out this offseason, they'll put a Band-Aid on the position, and they'll say, hey, let's go. The standard is a standard. He'll come out, he'll say the same cute phrases, but it doesn't work anymore. We know the same song and dance with Coach Tomlin. 9-8, 10-7 on the season, first round exit. This is why this team has not won a playoff game in so long, because of him. It's time to bring in a brand new coaching staff from top to bottom. And it's time to let this man go. I know that the Steelers, they hate the move off of coaches. It's not the Steeler way, but you have to change something. And Sandy is basically doing the same thing over and over again. You can see that Coach Tomlin is struggling in this stage of his career. Nothing is working. And when you look at the early success with Coach Tomlin, let's call for what it is. Those players were developed by Bill Cowher. That coaching staff was Bill Cowher's coaching staff when he came in. Winning a Super Bowl is impressive for any head coach. But a lot of that was because of Bill Cowher. And since he had to bring in his own coordinators, his own talent through the NFL draft, it has been very underwhelming, especially the last 7 years. And don't get me started on that secondary play a few years back when he had Artie Burns and Ross Cockrell on the field. Just terrible, terrible situations. This not having a losing record thing has to stop. That doesn't make you an elite head coach. That makes you a very good head coach, not an elite level head coach. If you're not winning a Super Bowl and you're not contending for a Super Bowl every single year, in my opinion, especially for the Steelers, the Green Bay Packers, hell, even the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers, with their expectations every single season, that is a losing season. And the main problem that you're going to have with Coach Tomlin, you will never be good enough to win a Super Bowl with him at this stage of his career, but you'll never be bad enough to secure a top pick to actually change the direction of your franchise. So we'll see what happens next week against the Indianapolis Colts, but I have a good feeling that they will lose that matchup, and against the Chargers, they'll lose that game as well. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Steelers with Coach Tomlin? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys to stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.